Alright, hey guys. I want to talk about some Zenless on Zero Impressions. I had the opportunity to play the game for about 8-ish hours, I would say. I had a 5-hour stream yesterday starting out, which was quite fun, honestly, overall. Towards the end, was finding a few feelings. I played just for a couple more hours after, so about 8 hours I would kind of average my playtime as so far. I want to talk through some pros and cons. I've got quite a bit more to say than my last video where I was talking about my skepticisms, because there's things I've been informed of after having played. So I've just split some pros and cons here that I want to talk through. We'll start with the pros. And remember, I want to just preface this actually before we do start. These are impressions, so this could change with more experience. I just want people to realize that. Like, some of this is not necessarily set in stone, but I'll talk about this when we actually hit the topic and talking points. So, pros, first of all. I like the UI design itself and how things look, the general presentation. It's quite creative, looks nice. It really gives me the Persona 5 type of vibes. I like the cutscenes, the way they're animated, the way they're stylized. I mean, we have like comic style cutscenes, which are illustrations, which I do appreciate. That's got to be a lot of work to do. Like all these different slides, all these images, and presumably they're going to be doing this for a long time, so I respect that. And of course we get the more animated cutscenes. The animation's really fun to look at with different characters. A lot of it's very expressive. We do have those moments where characters are kind of standing around, where it's just like talking together, just in the street or something. But I like the mix in presentation. And overall, I think all this stuff is a positive in terms of like the UI design and how they're presenting dialogue, generally speaking. Leading on to that, characters themselves are pretty expressive, and I like most of the designs quite a bit, honestly. I mean, I've got my favorites and some that, you know, I'm not as big a fan of, like Rina. I ended up getting Rina, Alexandrina, within my first 30 pulls. I got Nekomata in my first 10 pull, and off stream I got Alexandrina within 30 in the next 10, I think, after, or the next 20 after. Kind of crazy. I haven't even hit my 50 target yet, so I'll get another one then. But that being said, I mean, character design's very nice overall, in my opinion. And there's just some, again, that aren't super appealing to me. She's just one of them. But most of them I quite like, honestly. Not much else to say there at the moment. We'll see more designs as we get them, I suppose. But so far, I know people are mixed on how the characters look. I'm quite digging it, honestly. I think they look pretty cool overall. So getting into some of the meat now, the combat. They've already said the combat is a large focus for them. The main focus, I think they said, or something along those lines, kind of paraphrasing the 1.0 live stream they did the other day. But they have said that they really are focusing on combat. So the combat, and we're still on pros by the way, but there are cons related to this as well I'm going to talk through. But the combat itself does feel quite nice. I honestly think it's better than Genshin's, easily, in terms of how it feels. Complexity and depth is a different subject, but this combat feels a lot better. We were talking about this on the live stream. Could you imagine if Hoyo implemented this combat as like a big upgrade to Genshin's overall feel in the gameplay? I think it would be a huge benefit to Genshin Impact, because Genshin just feels more and more outdated. Obviously with the advent of Wuthering Waves and now this game, they're just making Genshin feel horrible to play by comparison, in my opinion. Like, I couldn't go back to it after Wuthering Waves, not after this game either. They need to do something with that game, but combat in this game feels really good, and like I said, depth and complexity just remains to be seen. I haven't played enough, and I think a lot of people haven't played enough to really understand fully what like optimal teams are. I mean, I'm sure people are theory crafting and doing testing right now, but from my experience, I don't know yet for sure. My go-to team right now, I'm using Nekomata, Billy, and Piper, and I love those three together. They feel really fun to like switch between, actually. Dodge counters with Nekomata, I love. It feels more natural to me to get a dodge counter to dodge enemy attacks, but you can also switch characters during an enemy's attack animation, which they talked about in the live stream, to get like a parry and get your new character in for like a counter attack, which I need to get used to, but I like those two systems. They feel pretty satisfying, and Nekomata gets benefits through dodge counters, which I really like. So yeah, there's some good things about it. The combat does feel really good. It just remains to be seen again how deep it is, but my prediction right now, honestly, is that Genshin, in terms of complexity, just comparing those two games, might be more complex because of its reaction system and all the factors that go into damage and multiplying your damage. We'll have to see if it's quite like that for Zenless, but Zenless does seem more basic at face value right now, from what my impressions are, but we'll see. Another thing, another pro, the last one here I want to talk about is the music itself. It's actually growing on me. Some of the tracks are boppers, like the music when you pull characters is pretty cool. Just that stands out to me. It's obviously going to be a memorable one because we're going to be doing that. Everyone's going to be doing that a lot. But when you get like an S rank as well, the song that plays is quite a bopper as well. The roaming music is pretty cool, like when you're just out in the street walking around. There's a few tracks. A few of them more forgettable. Mainly some of the combat tracks I haven't really remembered so far, but it is what it is. The music complements the style of the game. Let's put it that way. And like I said, it kind of gives me those Persona-esque vibes, Persona 5, which is a nice thing. But now we're getting into some of the more juicy stuff, the cons, which I'm sure people want to hear about what I don't really like about the game. And I will say this, a lot of this actually seems to be echoed, and I was feeling it, so it's not me just parroting at all, if anyone's getting that impression, because I know people have talked about this stuff as cons already. But this is my honest take. Like, I was feeling this a lot more towards the end of my initial live stream, a few hours in, when I was getting to grips with like the flow of the game. But first of all, the TV system kind of sucks ass. I'm sorry. I know people talked about this in, previous CBTs, but I never really looked into it at the time, but I fully understand now why people don't like this system. It's taking away from the more meaningful gameplay and the actual combat, in my opinion. I feel like the effort they put into this just would have been better spent by expanding the environments and having a greater focus on exploration within the environments. I compared what I thought the design, how linear it would be. I was talking about Stalker in my previous video. I know they're very unrelated games, but Stalker isn't open world, but it has segmented levels, but they're very wide open. There's a lot of exploration and discoverability through the environments. It's just not a focus here, but this TV system is not a good substitute. I just don't really understand. Is there anyone out there who really likes the TV thing? It's not a deep minigame in any aspect at all. It's just walking around, finding some treasures, initiating some fights, doing what you need to do to get the max amount of treasures, whatever those coin things are called, and then exiting. Having fights in between where you go to small areas and fight. It's just, the flow of the game just seems odd. I think the game would really benefit by just doing away with that TV shit. Like, I just want to play with my characters and get into the meat of the game. I think this is a lot of fat around the meat, honestly, this TV thing. So that's probably, actually the TV system right now might be my biggest complaint. I just think it really detracts from the meat of the game, the content of the game people actually care about. I want to play with my characters, and this inhibits my ability to do so unnecessarily, honestly. But beyond that, this is a more minor one, but people probably feel this too. You can't, when you roam in the open world and just go around the town and stuff, and the city, whatever, in 6th Street. I've only been to 6th Street. I'm pretty sure there's other areas to walk around, which I'm looking forward to exploring. But you can't use your own characters to explore in the open world. You can only use your proxy, the main character, which honestly kind of sucks. I want these characters, I want to play as them, even if it's just walking around as them and having interactions as them in the world. I think that would add to the interactivity while you're going around. But yeah, you're restrained to using characters like you pull, I don't know, anyone, like Billy, Nicole, anyone, even the starting cast. You're just restrained to use them only in combat scenarios. And between that and the TV system, it's kind of draining because I just want to be able to play with my characters that I'm enjoying. I want to see more of them, I want to hear more of them, I want to feel their combat more. But I have to get through all this other stuff to be able to do that, and I'm just not... I don't know about it. The TV thing's the main thing. I don't like it. I don't know if it'll grow on me. I just doubt it will, because it doesn't seem like it's going to be anything that ever evolves to a point where I think it's better than just having you able to engage in the game's meat once again. Going on from that though, this is not necessarily a con, but I'm just not sure about the story yet. I'm still very early in, but it's not really doing a whole lot for me. I mean, there's a lot of mysterious elements about it. This AI that we've got now that's helping with Hollow investigations is kind of interesting. The whole concept of the game is giving me like Matrix vibes with these like Hollow zones and proxy guiders. It's like these people are entering another world, these factions, and we're like guiding them through to make sure they don't get lost and can get out safely and all that. Definitely Matrix vibes, which is kind of cool. I need to get further into the story first, so we can't really list this as a con, but it's not really pulling me in a great deal just yet. The hook for me is I want to learn more about the AI and the Hollows and the villains at play. Like there's this mysterious hacker person that you might learn more about in 1.0, I'm not sure. I haven't got as far as maybe I should, but moving on from that. This kind of goes back to some stuff I was touching on. Level design itself, again, is kind of lame, honestly. It's not so much even level design. We have some linear corridors with a couple of fights and not much else to do besides at all. Again, there's no real exploration. And as I mentioned before, clearing a combat zone just puts you back into the TV stuff, which just I don't like. I'm sorry. I guess I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm not alone. I had some people coming into the stream saying that it really put them off even continuing, and they just dropped the game because they kind of see that's what the flow is going to be, and I fully understand. It's just not adding anything to the game. I'm sorry. Another thing that I think someone mentioned as something they weren't liking so much initially on the game of the live stream I was doing was there's no jump at all, and yeah, there's not. So it's completely non-vertical in that sense, unless you're doing combos, I suppose, but there's no dedicated jump button, which is just limiting further any ability to kind of explore the areas. The game is very much combat focused, but again, while it feels good at a baseline level, the complexity right now for me is more in question. It definitely seems a bit more casual in its complexity than a game like Genshin. Again, with the reaction system and all the different stats and things like that, and multipliers and how to, synergize teams and whatnot. I'm just not sure. We need to see. It's very early days. The last thing I want to talk about as a con right now, and once again, this might change with some more experience and time in the game, but enemies so far just aren't really doing a whole lot for me, even in terms of designs. Like, it's quite repetitive in terms of the designs. There's a few variations like the thugs and stuff like that, the humanoid enemies, and then the hollow enemies themselves, but a lot of them look very similar, and they're not really standing out. They come across as quite generic to me. And more to the point, in terms of combat, they're not really very reactive to you just wailing on them, so I've noticed so far, but again, I'm early, so maybe that'll change later on and you really have to strategize and be a lot more careful with harder fights. I'm sure that'll be the case. There's got to be some element of challenge. But again, first impressions, I kind of hope it's not too much in that direction, where enemies are just sponges to let you wail on them. The character trials, I played all of them. For the 5 stars, you can go through all of them, and I did all of them. And you get to play as other 4 stars in the teams as well. And I played them quite a bit. And it's not a full indication of the game because you get your skill charge very, very quickly and can kind of spam it. But even the enemies in there, the ones that were saying, oh, these are like tougher enemies, they weren't doing shit. Like, I was just knocking them into corners or just on their asses, stunning them constantly. And it was just constant spongy damage, It felt good in a way, in that sense. Like, the combat itself, like I said, feels quite nice. But yeah, I just hope the enemies don't tend to be like that. I have a feeling they might be, to be honest. Like, any mob enemy will be like that, and then the bosses themselves will be where, okay, you have to kind of just be a bit more careful and dodge counter more often and, be more defensive and strategic. Which, I'd like it if mobs are a bit more dangerous, but I guess, again, I'll see. This is, until I finish all the content 1.0 has to offer, and I'll do a review at that point, most likely, if I do stick with the game. But there are things putting me off, and namely the TV thing once again. It sucks. Does anyone really like that? I asked it earlier, but what? If so, why though? Like, I played minigames in many other games. I mentioned in my stream, Birth by Sleep has a minigame it was sort of reminding me of. That's like almost a Monopoly style game, but I remember it being way better than this, and actually quite fun and engaging. But yeah. That's really all I gotta say, guys. A bit rambly here, but that's kind of my style, as you probably have seen by now. Just wanted to put this video out, and my thoughts. My live stream from the other day is still there, of course. I'm keeping it up. 5 hours long. If you want to just see any of that, feel free to check it out. We'll see what the future holds. Will I stick with the game? I don't know for sure just yet. I don't. Like, I just don't. The things that will keep me there is the raw combat, the meat of the combat, and hopefully more complexity on that point, and the characters themselves. But everything else remains to be seen. So I'll leave it there, guys. Let me know what you think down below about the game yourself, if you've seen it or if you've played it, certainly, what your impressions are. And I'll speak with you guys again soon.